So let me start by just briefly introduce myself. I'm Pau. I'm a research software engineer at the Gene Golding Institute. And as part of the Ranger Trainer program, I'm now delivering this training to other people at the university. So this is part of UK RN, UK Reproducibility Network. That is this consortium that aims to try to establish like good practices in terms particularly of reproducibility and replicability. And this particular course is focused on the use of Git and GitHub. So they are version control software. And probably the starting point is like why is important to use version control for your documents, data, scripts, whatever you have. Well, first of all, it allows us to keep track of changes in the data and the code that we write over time. So when we share this code or when we publish it, we can always put a reference to what is the specific version that we use, because particularly in very long projects, this code can evolve on time. And that can create that, of course, the latest version that is available publicly is not the same that we use for our publications, for example. This points us to the problem of reproducibility. So if we want to get the same results, of course, we will have to use the same data or the same code that we did. And if we are not using, we need to identify what's different. And last, it allows us to collaborate more effectively, particularly if we are using some public hosting like GitHub, where we can put our code and other people can access it. Sometimes you can create these private groups. That's fine if you have collaborators and some project is not ready to be open. We always encourage people that as soon as things can be open to the public, you will get more input from other people that probably you are not aware of that may be interested in your project. So this is a great tool, particularly GitHub, to collaborate with other people remotely. Probably that point that we all have been in many years that we have in our desktop, that manuscript version 1, and after we have manuscript version 2, or manuscript version 3, and so on. And after we end up with 25 different versions of our document, and it's a bit difficult to keep track of the changes. We know that for sure that the last one is maybe the one that it says final in the name, or final version 2 or final version 3, or final version 3 edits of some collaborator. You know what happens, that this chain can get very long. And it's a better way to keep track of changes in documents, particularly if we are thinking about data and code. I just want to point that I just put this example of document, but if your document is something like kind of Word document, probably GitHub is not the best tool. Probably if you use SharePoint to share the document and do track changes or so, it's a better way to have documents shared and edited by multiple collaborators. The problem with Git in this kind of things is that usually it's defined that it's good to collaborate asynchronously. So you made some edits, people accept them, and after somebody else makes some edits, accepts them. When multiple people is editing the same documents in the very short time, and then they try to save the changes all together to the master version, that creates some version conflicts, and that is it can be a bit of an issue. It's like when your collaborators are sending two documents with changes and you need to try to merge all them together, you will have kind of the same problem. You will have to manually validate what the changes are. And so just keeping track that even we are going to say that this is good for collaboration, it's collaboration within some kind of restrictions. So I hope that by the end of this session, you will get a bit of sense of why it's important to use version control for your research data, code, and documents. We will learn how to create a folder in your computer to keep different versions saved, and how to create that kind of snapshots of the files every time that we need. We'll learn how to manipulate files, like adding files, removing files, modifying files, and after creating these snapshots. And by the end, we will see how to kind of back up everything to the cloud, to GitHub. That is probably the most popular service that uses Git. And there's a little bit of point that we are not going to put much emphasis in this. GitHub can have this kind of plain text documents that they can use this format called Markdown, that it's formatting a bit nicely, but probably is not going to be the most important point in here. So please, if you have any questions during this session, and I know that it's going to be quite intense because we have just a limited amount of time and we are going to run through all these little sections, just use the chat or unmute yourself and please just interrupt me. No problem at all. So the first step for using Git, and this is something that you will have to do on your own time, because this session is going to be more just a demonstration of what you can do, is installing Git in your computer. Depending if you have a Windows machine or a Mac, you will need to download different software to use it. If you have Windows, recommended generally is this Git Bash terminal. And if you don't have experience working in a Bash terminal, like a console or command line, I recommend you to have a quick look first to this introduction course to the command line, that you will learn the basic syntax to a command line more in a Linux format or macOS format. If you have Mac, you can follow one of these ways to install Git, either using the Xcode from Apple, or you go to the official webpage of Git and you just download the software from there. If you are a Linux user, and I guess that if you are a Linux user, maybe you are a little bit more advanced, you have different options as well. So just for convenience, I'm going to use JupyterLab here to demonstrate how Git works, and I'm going to open a terminal. So the first thing is like check that we have Git installed in our machine. So we can, for example, type Git --is and version. And effectively, I have Git in my machine, and it says that I have the version 246.0. If you get some message, something like this, command not found, Git, this is probably you have some issue with installation. Maybe try to install it again. If it's Windows, sometimes it can be something related to the paths that you are using. Be aware that if you are installing this Git bash terminal, if you go to the command prompt in Windows, you will not have Git in there. So you will have Git just when you use the specific app. So you have a small icon for this terminal. I think some kind of, it's kind of similar to Windows logo, some kind of 4 colors in a square, something like that. Once we have Git in our system, there's one requirement that is using some text editor. We need to choose what text editor we are gonna use. It can be Nano, it can be Beam. There are other editors, more graphic interface like Notepad++. In this case, probably most of you, I would recommend to use Nano. That is relatively simple. You can you can type Nano in a terminal, and it will open some kind of text base text editor. You can type here your text. For example, dummy message. And then you have these options here at the bottom. That it means that you need to press Control key and the letter that is behind. So it's like Control X to exit. And it's prompting here, do you want to save the changes? And I will say, in this case, I don't want to change. So I just press N, and it will just exit the editor. So I know that these kind of editors, they sometimes get a bit of it gets a bit of time to use because they are not user-friendly as we are used to. But for Git, it's particularly good if you learn to use just very basic options, just like edit a file, save a file, and that's it of one of its editors. They have another option that is Beam. Beam, it's similar to, you can just type text similar to the one. You don't have the options in the bottom, but you can press escape and then you put two dots and the options that you want. For example, you can put WQ to quit or Q to quit, but I need to put exclamation mark, like I don't want to save the changes. So there's a lot of things that you need to memorize when you want to use Beam. So I strongly recommend probably starting with Nano. Don't feel overwhelmed with this step. I know that it looks like, oh, what he is doing in the terminal. He's going too quick. No worries. We are gonna go step by step how to use Git. This is just something that it's good if you get used to. By the end of the session, we are gonna see some more other options, like more oriented to graphical interface. So one thing that we need to do after installation of Git is configure it with three different parameters. One is the username, username, your email, and the editor that you want to use. For example, as we said before, Nano, like it says here in this line of code. So what I need to do is go to my terminal. I just type git config 2 dashes global user.name, and at the end I need to type what is the name I want to save for my user. I'm not gonna run this because I already have my username saved. So if I type without the parameter, it just print what is saved already. So this is my username. I think that the same for email. Here, there's the email that is linked to my GitHub account. So in this case, it's not University One, it's my personal one in Gmail. And then there's the core editor. That's the same. I could put the name at the end, but as I already have set up my system, or actually it says that I don't have it set up, so I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna use Nano. And if I check it again, now it says that the default is Nano. If you like, you could type any dummy name. You could make something like this, and this will save this name. The fact that it requires you to put a name is because we want to keep a good documentation of the changes, track changes that we are doing to our files. So if when I will make a changes and I will save that versions, it will keep some kind of message, or we can call meta message, linked to that version that is going to say who saved that version of the file, when it was saved, the email of that person. So you could put as well here some dummy email, and it will work fine, but it's a good practice if you put a real email, so people can contact you if there's some problem with that version that you are using. So this is all in terms of setting up GitHub, and now we are going to see all these sections that they are going to show how to do small steps like creating a folder, creating files, saving the files, creating these snapshots for version control, and so on. So before going to that, there's this page, this Git cheat sheet that probably is, I would say, that the most important page because it's kind of a summary of the instructions we are going to see here during the session. From how to create a folder that have version control, check the status of the folder if it's up to date or there are changes that have not been saved, how to add files, how to save a version, check if there are differences with previous version, the last version that was saved to the current one. You can also kind of revert files to previous versions using this checkout function. You can check logs if there's any issues. You can move and rename files like you will do in any project if you need to rename a file or so. And these last two instructions are more focused on the use of GitHub, and we will see them later. This is like if you have a repository in GitHub and you want to create a copy in your local computer, you can use git clone. And when you have changes done in your local computer that you want to send back and update your GitHub repo, then you can use this git push. So let's start from the very beginning. We need to create a folder and let Git know that we want to keep version control of that folder. So the way to do this, and I'm currently in a dummy folder that I created for this session in this intro git GitHub. So I'm going to create a new folder here that is going to be called, let's call it my first Git. And I'm going to go inside this folder, my first Git. And now this is an empty folder, so there's absolutely nothing inside. So now I want to tell Git that this is I want to keep version control of this folder. So what I need to run is the command git and the option init, git init. So this is going to print just a message saying now we have initialized this as a git version control folder. And you can see here by the very end that it created some folder that is called .git, that if usually when you look at the folder, if you have like, if you don't show the hidden files, you will not see it. But if you look at hidden files as well, you will see that you have this folder created Git. And actually inside Git, you will see that there's other folders and structure of files that this is what Git is going to use to keep all the versions of your file. It's important, and I will reiterate it later on, that you don't edit directly this .git file. This is kind of very complicated hierarchy of files and dependencies. So if you edit something, you may broke what Git needs to be able to identify the correct versions, and it may broke the current system that you have for version control. So strongly recommend, please don't touch it. Git is going to handle whatever it needs inside this folder, but don't edit it manually. And of course, don't delete it. If you delete this folder, you will delete all your versions that you have saved from your files. This is it shows later on in your documentation, but also if you remove this top folder, my first Git. So if I go one level up and I see this folder and I remove my first Git, this is going to remove this folder, including the .git subfolder that includes all my version control. So this is going to remove everything. So I'm going to lose all the versions that I have. So keep in mind that Git at this stage is to keep different versions, but they're all stored in the same folder, and it's not a system for backup. So if we want to backup, we can go the traditional way. You have an USB drive and you copy there, or we can use cloud providers like GitHub and copy things there. Uh, Keeping that in mind, now we have created the folder and we have initialized Git. So what we want to do now is add some first files to it. For example, we can use the editor that we said before, Nano, and create some file with some text inside. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to type Nano, my first file, apologies, txt. So now I'm inside Nano. I'm pasting the text that was there just to write something in the file. And I'm gonna press Ctrl X to exit. It's asking me, do you want to save the changes? And I press yes. And it asks if I want to keep the same name. I could edit this and change the name, but I'm gonna keep the same name. Just press enter. And now I have created this file. And if I look inside the file, you can see that there's the text that we copied inside. So now we can check what is the state of Git or repo and with Git status and says, oh, we haven't made no changes. There's no commits yet. So we have not saved any snapshot, any previous version, but it identifies that there's some kind of, it calls untrack file. So there's a file that have not been informed to Git, but it finds that there's there, and it recommends you, for example, to run this command, the git add, and the name of the file to be included in the version control. So we're going to do exactly that. So I'm going to write the command git add and my first file.txt. This is not going to print, it's not printing anything, but now if we go back to Git status, it says that we still have no commits yet, so we have not saved previous versions, but now we have something to be committed. So we have some change that is identified that needs to be saved. That is this new file, my first file.txt. So how we let Git know that we want to save this? And this is with this command commit -a. So we need to type git commit -a. -a, basically it tells Git that we want to save all the changes that are there in the folder, in the new snapshot of the version. It's strongly recommended to use always -a and save all the changes. You could here just type name of the files and just save specific changes just to the version, but that can create problems later on with Git. So if you don't have very strong specific reasons to use commit for specific files, I strongly recommend just to create a full snapshot of all the folder. So git commit -a, I press enter, and suddenly what happened? It opened me automatically my text editor. If, as I had said that I want to use Nano, it opened this Nano editor that is going to write a file inside this .git folder, and it's waiting for me to type here some message. This is what it's called the commit message. So this is expecting me to type something meaningful in terms of what changes I made to my folder or files. And yeah, for example, I added my first file. This could be something like this enough. As I said, it expects to you to write something meaningful. I mean, you could type just, for example, just a few characters and just save it. It will accept it. But in terms of keeping a good history track of the changes and good documentation of the changes, this is what will create that your project is going to be well documented in terms of the changes from different versions. So in this case, I type this, I added my first file, I press Ctrl X again to exit. It asks me, do you want to save the changes? Press Y. It asks me if I want to keep the same name file. I will press just enter to keep the same name file. Here it says that I added my first file. One file have changed, 9 insertions, like probably it's like 9 lines, and it created this file in the repo in the version control folder. If I check now Git status, now it says that there's nothing to be commit, and it identifies no kind of inconsistencies, no new files created or deleted. And so yeah, it says that yes, working tree is clean. So no issues at all. I didn't mention this. Here it says master and here it says branch master. Git allows you to have like different branches. So you can have a master branch and then create a clone of that master branch and edit things separate without committing, saving the changes to the master branch. So it's basically equivalent of just copy paste and create 2 copies of the same folder and edit them separate. But with the particularity that after you can say, oh, all the changes that are in this new branch, I want to commit them back to the main branch. Yeah, and yeah, this is sometimes useful, particularly when you are collaborating with other people and you don't want to edit directly their main branch. You want to create a new branch, edit, make the changes, make sure that everything it's fine, and after suggest to the other people, oh, look, I have these changes made in my own branch. Why you don't commit to your branch and update your as well? Uh, So we have just created a new file, but we have not modified it and saved the changes. So what we could do is, for example, I can open Nano and edit this file, my first file. I'm gonna, for example, remove this first line. I'm Control X, save changes, yes, same name, and that's it. So now if I go to Git status, it says that this file have been modified. I could now type git commit -a to save the changes, but actually what I want to see is this other command that is git diff. So this is going to compare the files that are in the last saved version to the current one that we have in this folder. So git diff is going to show that in this file, my first file, compare the saved version with the newest one. There's these differences that it says that there's one line that have been deleted. Usually it's kind of color code, and if there's a minus at the beginning and it shows in red, usually it's a deletion. If it's an addition, a new line, usually going to show with a plus and a green text. Can just quickly edit this. For example, I can type this is a new line, and I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna run a git diff. So here now, again, it shows the difference between these two files. It says that this file have been removed, this line has been removed, and then there's these two lines added. I type an enter here, that's fine. And then there's a line I typed, this is a new line. So now maybe I'm here with editing my code or document, and by document, generally I'm thinking more something like a web page or something that is kind of text, plain text in the background, not like a Word document or so. If I want to revert the changes that I have already done, I can use this, for example, the checkout function, and say that I want to check out the main to the and the file name that is here to the main version. So I can say that I want git checkout main and the name of the file, my first file .txt. Apologies, this is something that I should have corrected in the documentation. It depends on the system you're using. Sometimes your main branch is going to be called main, and some other instances is going to be called master. So in this case, my computer is called master, so I need to change main by master. So now it says that there was one update from this, and so it have been changed the file. And actually, if I look at inside the file, you will see that that line that I typed before and I remove hello world is being reverted, and now I have the previous version. This is kind of the same of editing the file and copying the last version. So these have not been committed. So if I go to git status, in this case, I think it will fail. Now it says there's nothing to be committed because actually the last branch is exactly the same that the one I used before. But if I quickly edit the file, just some dummy text, I save it, Control X, Y, enter, and I commit these changes, -a. I'm sorry, apologies, I forgot to git commit -a. Dummy changes. I press Control X, Y, enter, and now the changes have been saved. So if I now edit the file, or actually I don't need to edit because I think that I can just type this and I check git status, nothing to be committed because still the same, but I can go back to a different version, and I haven't seen shown this, but it's showing in here that if we go to git log, and apologies because I forgot to mention this, git log is going to show you the list of all the versions that you have saved of your folder. So this can be a very, very long list. And you can see that here it says that the commit that we did first, it was done by myself. So this is why it's important to configure GitHub the beginning with your name and email. So it will keep track of who made these changes, date and time, and then the commit message I wrote. The same, this is the one that I did just right now. And if I want to revert not to this last one, but to the previous one, what I can use is this kind of long number that is a unique identifier. So I will say I want to check out to this version. And in this case, I'm specifying a file name, but I could specify without a file name. And this will mean that I want to revert all the files, not just this one that I was specifying. So these have reverted to this previous version, and I check git status. Now it says that there's something detached. Policies, what I did it wrong. Let me go back to this version. Okay, now I reverted just specifically this file, and if I get status, now it says that I have this file that have been modified because I went from one version to another, and then the third one that I edit, and now I went back not to the last one that I have saved, but to the original one. So these changes are now in my local computer here in this folder. So this file is like the original one. But if I want to save this in the next version, I need to commit it as well. So I should create another commit git commit -a. It will prompt me that I need to type a message. So reverse to original file. I will press Ctrl X, Y, and sorry, X, Y, and enter. So now my kit is up to date, and there's no changes to be committed. There's this message here, head detach. I'm not sure what I did wrong before, and it created some bit of conflict. Just please ignore it. It shouldn't be there. So you hear in the documentation you have more examples of reverting the files. Basically, the same that we did it here now. That we just need to type git checkout this unique number and then the files that we want to revert or without to revert all the folder. Uh, just a last bit that is important to highlight, that if we want to move or remove files, the recommended way is to let Git know that we are doing this. If not, Git will see that we have made some changes and he will not be able really to identify if we move a file or we created a new one and deleted the previous one or so on. And the way to do this is just simply with the same commands that we are using to move mv and to remove rm, just type git at the very beginning. So if I want to copy this file, for example, to have something else to delete, and I forgot to add this file. So now I created two copies of this file, my first file and my first file too. So if I want to move one file to a different name, for example, I want to move, let me show you status first. So now it says that there's nothing to commit. So if I want to move a file and I just use the normal way, and I check git status, it's gonna prompt us some messages that there are changes that he was not aware of, that it seems that this file have been deleted, and then there's untracked changes, there's a file that have been added. So this is not really what happened. So the best way to do it is letting Git know that we are doing this, just by typing git space mb for move, and this file, my first file.txt to my first file 3.txt. When I do this and I check again git status, now it's correctly identifying that this have not been a deletion or an addition on a new file, but this has been just that file have been renamed. The same happens with remove. I'm not gonna do it right now just in interest of time, because I quite sure many of you would like to see a bit of how to use GitHub. Just as a reminder, we have this Git cheat sheet. We have seen how to use actually already all these commands. So we have seen quite a lot. I know that it looks kind of very manual, and actually you need to do the commits by yourself. That is not something that it happens automatically in the background. Nothing much I can say. It's how it works. So you need to get used uh, to it and make sure that you keep regular copies of your files when you make or your folders when you make changes and you create new versions. So let's now move to how to use GitHub and why GitHub is useful or complements just the use of Git. As I said before, Git save all these versions in some hidden directory called .git inside the tracked directory. So two things: don't edit this .git directory in any way. Recommend it, strongly recommend it. And as I said before as well, Git is not a backup system. So you keep versions, save different versions. You can consider this some kind of backup, but it always depends that if your master folder it's corrupted some way, maybe your computer breaks, maybe you delete the folder by mistake or so on, you will not have a copy of all that versions that you were saved because they are all inside the same folder. So a solution for that, I mean, apart from the manually ways to do it, like keeping USB drive or moving to Dropbox or something, is using hosting services like GitHub, or you have GitLab or Bitbucket. They are quite popular ones as well, that allow us to use all these commands of Git syntax to save things remotely in a public, or sometimes you can create private repositories for groups, but generally public hosting. In this page, you have some the steps that you need to create to set up your GitHub. It's quite important step, this Git credential manager. I think it's like 4 years ago that they started not accepting anymore the use of password just. So you need to use this credential manager to be able to log in from your computer, not through the web interface, but to do all these Git commits and Git push and everything. To identify yourself to Git, you will have to have this Git credential manager core installed. Follow these links if you need to do it. I've seen in the past some people had a bit of trouble in this step. Just try to carefully follow all the steps and don't untick anything. So I think that recommended is to install everything that is shown there, and hopefully it will work for all of you. If you have any issues, please feel free to write us an email, and very happy to try to help you to set up this. So now we are going to go to the GitHub web page, and you need to create a user account if you don't have. In this case, I'm logged in with mine, and I'm just going to show you quickly how to create a new repo, and after just clone it, copy it to your local computer to edit and do a commit remotely. So to create a repo, for example, you can just click at this green button here, says new. So very easy. It says where you want to save this. Usually you have your username. Maybe if you belong to some groups or organizations, you will have a list of other groups. Perfectly fine, just select your user. And I'm going to say that I'm going to create a new repo that is going to call UKRN training test. It's quickly checking that if his name is available. It's not that this name have to be unique on the internet. It's just it's within your username as well. So probably anything that you type is going to be fine. You can add some small description in training session. And important step, you need to select if this is going to be public or private. Some people prefer sometimes publish things privately, and after when they think that they are happy with what they have there, maybe move to public. That's completely fine and can be reverted the other way around as well. In this case, I don't mind, so I will just put public. You can create a README file. This is just a plain text file just to add some extra information. Good practice in terms of documenting your GitHub and people be able to understand what is inside there. I can click here, it will create an empty file for me. Git ignore, not important to consider now. It's just like if you have some folders in your local computer that when you commit, you don't want them to be uploaded, you can specify in this text file, but in this case, we don't need. And something that sometimes we don't put much importance, but actually it is to choose what kind of license we want to publish our code or data or so. So you have a list of predefined, standard licenses. You can put that is a license and just keep all the rights from it. You can select any other public licenses, more permissive, that people can reuse your code or data as far as is like a knowledge, or there are other ones that they may have like restriction, like it can be used for non-profit institutions, but not for private companies, for example. So, and that's pretty much all you need to do to create a repo. So you just need to go to the very bottom, click this green button, create a repository. And that have already created a repository that is in this URL, github.com/my username/ukrn-training.test. So this is already public and available. So if I I'm able to find the window for this session. Is this one? If anybody wants to click here, for example, this is already shared. Apologies, because I can see that there are some messages that I didn't answer. Dan is saying that if I was thinking of GitHub Desktop for Windows, yes, and I'm going to briefly introduce it. GitHub Desktop, I think, is really very useful, and it makes all this process of using Git commands much simpler. And I'm not sure what is your question, Conrad. What is PS? Oh, PowerShell. You can install Git in PowerShell. You need to follow up with different steps. If you use, if you download the Git Bash terminal, you will not have it available in PowerShell, but you can download Git and install in PowerShell as well. The same for the command prompt. Yeah, I mean, it's possible to have available in both. Yeah. The importance of the license, Natasha is asking, it depends of what you are publishing. You may want things to be publicly available or may have some restrictions of use. Maybe if you are publishing some data that is not allowed to be used for uh, by companies, maybe you need to select the right license to avoid that. If you publish it and you make public and you put the wrong license and a company gets that data, after you have a bit of difficulty to say you cannot use it because you already published publicly and with a specific type of license. Of course, if you are publishing things like data and you have some kind of consent from participants, for example, and participants, they agreed with something that you are not following, that can create issues. The same in terms of kind of intellectual property. If you invest time developing some software and you are happy to share it to research community for free, but if you want to get some uh, money back from industry, if they are getting benefits from it, as well, you need to select carefully the license that you want to use. So now we have created this repo, and one thing that we can do here in the web page of GitHub is do small edits to files. For example, here you can go edit this file. This is the README file. This is a training session, and the same that we are doing in our computer when we have changes that we need to save, we need to commit them. So in this case, we have this button, commit changes. It asks me for the same commit message. And in this case, it by default types always like update and the name of the file. You can add extra explanations. In this case, I'm gonna leave like this. You can change your user. In this case, I could select one of these two emails that I have from the same user. And you can create a branch. As I said before, you can create different branches, and after decide to merge if you think that they are compatible or the changes in one are going to benefit the other one, or just commit directly to the main branch. In this case, because there's no need to create a new branch, I just commit the changes. It saves the changes, and if I go back to the main page, you will see that here it's showing what the commit that I just did right now and the message that I saved in the commit message, update of readme.md. And here there's a history of the commits, in this case, the initial commit, so the one when I created the repo, and then this one that I created just right now. As well, they have some kind of unique identifiers here of the commits, so you can click and it will expand and show what are the changes in that commit. In this case, I said before, in green is showing all the codes that have been added. In this case, is for the license file, and then here in the bottom is for the README file. Just click go back. One more. If I go to the last commit that I did just right now, here is the changes. In this case, just README file that it shows that I added this empty line, and then this is a training session message. Now we have been making changes here. This is like if you need to make a very small change, maybe you can use this editor. Probably the way to work usually is more like you have your copy in your machine, you do the changes that you need, and after when you are happy with them, you commit them. So how we can create this kind of track version control folder in our computer that it connects to GitHub. So one way to do it, I mean, we can copy this URL, or I think that there's yeah, you can copy this syntax line here. And then go back to your terminal, and I'm gonna just paste. No, this is not gonna work. Just give me 1 second. Basically, there are two ways of doing this with these two different commands. This is probably the one that was used at the very beginning, more like git, saying that this is a remote connection, add, and what is the origin, what is the branch you want to add, and then this command push that allows you to retrieve. Nowadays, they merge this into a single line that is git clone, and it's the one that I'm gonna use it here. So if I go to my terminal and I type git clone, to type. So basically I need to put git clone and then the URL of the repository. So in this case is github.com, my username and uKaren test. So now if I look into this folder that I was creating before, now I have this uKaren training test, apologies, and uKaren. If I go inside, you can see that now we have a copy of this folder that have two files, the license file that he created and the README file. If I look at the hidden folders as well, you will see that there's as well the .git file that it creates. So this will allow us to create the version control first locally and after when we will push to the server. So let's, for example, edit some file here. I'm going to use nano and I'm going to edit the README file. And I'm going to type something. Let me text, and then I save the changes with Control X, Y, and just enter. If I check what's the status of this Git folder, it says that this file have been modified, but of course have been modified locally. If I'm here and I update the page and I go to the README file, this file is still the same. How we push this or save these changes to GitHub? First of all, as always, we do the commit. So we need to do git commit -a. This will ask what are the changes. Say readme file. So I might edit the readme file. I press Ctrl X. I press sorry X. Save changes, yes, and tap. So this updated my local copy of Git. So now here it says that there are no changes to commit. If I go to GitHub and I just click here, update, this version is exactly still the same. Last step that I need to do to send the changes called push to GitHub is git push. So I just need to type this. And here it says that yeah, it's already, the changes have been pushed to GitHub and to this URL. So now if I go to GitHub and I update the page, now you can see that here it changed the commit message. Now it says edit of README file 1 minute ago. If I open it, you can see that the changes I make locally, they have been saved in GitHub remotely. Cool, we are running out of time. So as I said, there are different tools. Oh no, I need to say about this. This red box, and it's red because it's important and it says attention. So remember that if you publish something in GitHub and you make it public, the changes are going to be there unless you remove completely the repository. So if you, by mistake, you send some file that have some kind of configuration parameters and have passwords, the passwords are going to be there online. Even if you make changes and you remove, there's going to be the track, the version control, the previous versions of the file. So people will be able to see them. Of course, don't publish things that are private or that cannot be published because they are going to be there and accessible. And some recommendation, be nice when you make commit messages. Don't say I corrected this error from my dummy colleague because this is going to show there as well. So just be considerate, please. Finally, and we don't have time to see it, but there are other tools that I think I link here. I strongly recommend to have a look at GitHub Desktop. It's a very simple interface where you can just go here to this menu and say add a repository. And when you make changes to the files or you add files or so, GitHub Desktop will automatically identify what are the changes that you have made. Then when you want to commit these changes, you have here this button and this box. Here's for the commit message. So you can just type your message, extra descriptions if you want. And when you have committed, if you want to send it to GitHub, you will see that there's a button here in the middle of the screen that it will say push the changes as well to GitHub. So I really strongly recommend to use GitHub Desktop. I use myself as well. I think that makes things much easier and not having to go to a terminal to do just things that you can do here in 2 clicks. So have a look at it. But of course, it's good to know what is really doing in the background and what are the comments, because Git sometimes is a bit unpredictable. And if something is not working, maybe it's useful to be able to identify what's happening. So thanks very much for attending this session. I hope it has been useful. If you have any kind of feedback that you would like us to know, please feel free to write us an email, good or bad. We are always keen to learn and improve the materials. The materials are going to be online, hopefully forever, so feel free to go back to them as you wish or try to do these steps on your own. And the recording is going to be also available. It should show in your calendar invite. If not, please write us an email and I will make sure to share the link with all of you. So that's all for today. Again, thanks for attending the session and hope it's been useful, and have a lovely rest of your afternoon.